call, so to speak.
Arnold,
Here.
Beckwith,
Here.
There's George.
Parkapisi, absent. Hamilton, here. Cotsini,
Here.
Lindsay,
Excellent timing.
Sutton, here. We have a quorum.
Okay. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Warren Newport Public Library District provides the community with access to information, kindles the imagination of children and adults, and supports lifelong learning. Anyone want to speak in public comment? Guess not. Okay, we don't have any legal correspondence, do we?
No.
Okay, so everybody should have a draft, my draft of the bonus note at your place. Suggestions, additions, subtractions? Yeah. Uh-huh. Anybody want to make any changes? I'll give you a second, George.
No, looks good.
Okay. All right, we're on to the consent. So I am going to remove the monthly financial report because it's not here. I'm sorry?
Yeah, but it typically is part of the
But-
consent agenda. You never put in the regular board packet?
That's what Gina said.
No, it wasn't. Somebody didn't set the financial.
Oh, excuse me, the finance report.
Yes.
I thought I misunderstood.
Oh, okay.
My apologies.
And I'm going to remove the session minutes.
All right. Who would like to make the motion then?
I move that the consent agenda be approved as edited.
As, how do we say that? Amended?
As amended.
Amended.
As amended.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay, President's Report, page 29. Questions, comments, concerns? All right, who else has?
No, I don't think so. We have to. Oh, yes, that's okay.
Okay,
I thought we have to approve the ones that you removed, but no.
no.
Sorry.
Well, sometimes we do, but
Yes.
not this one.
Not this one, yes.
Okay, other people have reports? All right, you're up.
Yeah, so Executive Director's Report on page 30, a couple things I want to point out. First of all, that it is mentioned that the book sale, it was last Saturday, so it was very successful. The Friends raised $2,231, and there were $48 in donations as well, so people were very happy. We had a couple of situations with non-mask compliance, but otherwise it was a successful book sale, so we're happy about that.
I came by, I forget what time it was, I couldn't really stay, but I just came by to give a donation, and it was packed. I mean, there were a lot of people here, so, yeah, it looked really
Oh, yeah, it's been a
successful.
long time, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it was particularly that first hour or so, it was busy, but. And then, just something to point out, that OSG quarterly technology meeting, this was the first one I attended. I think this is the second one we've done. I wasn't available the first time. It was really helpful for David and I to meet with OSG. That's our the outfit we're working with IT. So that's a very useful meeting. That's going to help us a lot with budget planning in the upcoming budget cycle because we went through and we talked about all our different projects and they made suggestions and talked about our this is a possible security vulnerability. We recommend this. We don't recommend that. So I just wanted to point that out because that was a very productive use of our time. So I think that's going to be really helpful moving forward for us.
Does that stand for anything?
Outsourced Solutions Group, I think. Yeah. David, is that right? Yeah, I got it. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Anything else?
Nothing? Okay, so we're on to operations and mask update.
Yeah, so if you kind of read the tea leaves, there have been some interviews lately, and I know that the Governor Pritzker has been talking to epidemiologists, and they're forecasting kind of a increase in COVID cases November and December, and maybe it won't be until springtime until we see the COVID cases relax. I know a lot of people were hoping that the mask mandate might be relaxed indoors in Illinois in time for the holidays, but that does not appear to happen. That is going to happen, and for good reason. If you look at the latest numbers, about a month ago, when we looked at the number of new cases, 7-day window per 100,000 population, it was about 9,100. Now it's all the way up to 193. So the cases are going back up. So we'll continue to monitor that situation, and as we've discussed, I think the board still feels, as I do, that we want those numbers to get back down to moderate transmission rate before we relax the mask requirement, and we'll still abide by the governor's orders anyway. So yeah, I think we're going to be kind of status quo for a while until the springtime. Although I know, I talked to Noreen a little bit about this, and I'll talk to the management team more over the next couple of months, is that I want us to proactively plan as much as possible, knowing we'll have to pivot, that when we hit the springtime, the things will open up a little bit more, and in the summer things will open up a little bit more, because I do think that's what will happen. Although we've learned that with COVID, all bets are off. I think the scientists thought there was a very small chance that even though the virus would mutate, it would mutate to something like the Delta variant that spreads so quickly. I think that, they, at the time, with the knowledge they had, scientists thought, okay, there's a very small chance of it mutating in this manner, but it happened, right? So we'll just continue to, adapt and be flexible and roll with the punches, so to speak. And yeah, so that's where we're at. I wish and we're slowly starting to, open things back up and do new things. We're talking about bringing our math tutor back, for example. So we're starting to, as you can see, we're starting to do more and more, just as it seems like it's safe to do so. So, any questions about that? Comments? I know it probably will be tough. I think people are, as COVID goes on and on, definitely there are more and more people that are just, we're all tired of wearing masks, right? But, once again, we'll continue to, do what we're doing. I know there's some other libraries, and this is not a criticism of the local libraries, but some libraries are more lax with their mask enforcement, where people will go in and maybe they'll say that people have to wear masks, but the staff won't enforce it, and I completely respect that. We have the luxury, so to speak, of having a security team, which helps. But yeah, so that's where we're at.
I was in Wisconsin over the weekend and nobody's wearing masks up there. And I have to say, as much as I want to be done with this, it really made me concerned. I mean, the Illinois that went in there, and people look at us like we were, that was, nobody was wearing masks in stores. So I appreciate that we're still sticking with it.
Yeah. And it's one of those things you're not going to be able to win either way, Bonnie, because I know there are people that are very appreciative that tell us, oh, we're so grateful that you're, mask required, and then there are other people that don't. And if we were to reverse course for whatever reason, we'd have people that would be mad at us, and then people would be grateful. It just, unfortunately, it's a polarizing topic. So. Yeah, and I'm not suggesting we do. Yeah. Yeah. Sure, of course.
All right, any other questions on that? Okay, Merritt.
Yeah, so that you have a lot of information, and I gave you some additional information because I realized I think Catherine asked about looking at historically, what the what the COLA increases look like. So I found this nice chart. This is specific to Social Security Administration, and then with that, this was from seniorsleague.org. I think they're an organization that advocates for seniors, and I just pulled some information because I like their explanation of some areas where costs are increasing. And then the Bureau of Labor Statistics press release from last week about the consumer price index for our area. And this is a very detailed breakdown about the different, increase in cost. And then in your board packet, you have all kinds of information. I did, reprint at your places the kind of 5-year projection, on the budget, because if in your board packet, it's very hard to read. So you would have to have extremely good eyesight to see it. So my apologies for
I
that.
had to use a magnifying glass. I'm not joking.
Yeah, so I apologize. But I think, so one of the questions was, what is the, kind of the long range, budget impact if the board were to, go up to a 5% merit increase, going into January 1st of 2022. And, really, I don't think it is, super significant. Talking to Doug about it, talking about, what next year's levy looks like. For the first time, I think, since PTEL got instituted in Illinois, the CPI is going to be above the 5% limit on the tax levy. So, yeah, with the next, not this year, but with next year's levy, assuming the board wants to do this, we will have the ability to levy up to the 5% plus new growth in the district. So, I think the other consideration is, well, where are the other pressures on the budget? Is there going to be other areas where costs will be going up? And if you look at our budget, the big driver of the budget, 59-60% is personnel. That's a big chunk of our budget. And if the board were to adopt an increase of up to 5%, I think that increases personnel by about 1% overall, from 59% to 60%. Other areas, just so everyone understands how our budget breaks down, generally speaking, service and supplies is about 16% of the budget, materials 11%, capital budget, it fluctuates, but this year it was 6%, and then debt is 10%, and that's pretty steady until debt's paid off. So, I think it is something that we can, with the expected increased levy next year, and looking at projections, I think it's something that we can absorb without any huge budget ramifications down the road. But then it's a matter of what should you do? And I shared again in your board packet what other libraries are doing. Everyone's kind of handling this differently, So, I would think that, if you asked me for a recommendation, I would think the board would at least want to consider some increase above the 2% that's in the budget. It's up for the board to decide whether you want to go all the way to 5%. I think that's justifiable based on the, inflation rate and the higher costs, but.
Mine was 56 or 59%, is that ended up material?
In terms of the, what's,
Is that on the-
no, that's not there. No, that's not there. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, this specifically is just personnel that we took a look at. That I pulled out.
What are people thinking?
I think more than 2, but maybe less than 5. Are we throwing out numbers?
If you'd like to, sure.
Do you think that if we stay like at 3, for instance, that it would be difficult to staff some of the positions? I don't know how far people would drive to another library, perhaps 5%. I just don't know. Do you think it would have a big impact?
Well, I will say one of the things that we're doing, and this is an internal decision. We are looking at some of the lower grades of pay and making adjustments right now, because this was always in the plan for minimum wage compliance, and also just being competitive with neighboring libraries, the market. So yeah, it's a big concern of mine, and really Noreen's, all of us, to retaining staff and attracting staff for sure. So I know there's a lot that goes into that. But I think, independently of whatever the merit increases across the board, we're still going to be active about, adjusting rates of pay for, especially the lower grade positions, because we have to, yeah.
Do we have merit pay? I know this is not few of the other libraries that have that.
So it's funny because it is reflecting the policy that it's a merit increase. We call it a merit increase. But if you are to, for example, look at the Social Security COLA chart, for example, it's not always, it varies. It can be as low as 0% or it can be as high back in 2009 to 5.8%. But I've always, when I've looked at it since I've been here, I've always kind of thought, although we call it a merit increase for all intents and purposes, it's kind of like a COLA increase, really. So, Noreen could probably speak more to the history of the way we've done it. I know there was a
We
time,
used to have two.
yeah.
In the summer, we'd have COLA and the merit. The merit at one time was to try and encourage people, and it got to be really competitive. We have amazing staff, and so you had to come in and rank at 3, 4, 5 to get it, and a lot of it was based on you doing something other than what you do. So in other words, if you were exceptional at what you do, you didn't get recognized. So the managers actually were the ones who said, as long as we're only getting 2%, when it got down to 2%, let's just make it across the board, because if we have a staff member, and we have had to do this, who isn't working up to what they should be doing, they don't get it until they've corrected their behavior, so, and it's back on track.
I like that. A competition,
Well, it was challenging. I remember that's one of the first things we talked about when I arrived 7 years ago was it was that scale from 1 to 5, and 3 was supposed to be like if you were doing your job, like a solid effort at your job, you would get the 3, and everyone would have arguments like, well, this staff deserves a 4 or 5, and it just was hard for us to measure.
That's subjective.
Yeah, it's so subjective.
Your staff expected to get 5 all the time, if they thought they were doing good. It wasn't a good feeling.
So.
Anyone else want to throw out a number?
I'll just say, reality check, we're talking about a 5% increase when inflation this year is going to be greater than 5%. Either way, we're really asking our staff to take an actual pay cut, just realistically. I don't see a reason to go below 5 this year.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
We're talking about, yeah. Either way, we're asking our staff to take a pay cut, realistically. I see no reason to go below 5%. I think these numbers look sustainable. I don't see a reason to vote against a 5% increase.
That's the way I feel too.
Wouldn't be, I guess I'm not following the inflation, isn't that accounted for in this cost of living? Or am I missing 2022?
Are you looking at the?
Like this says, Social Security, the cost of living chart.
Oh yeah, it doesn't have it is missing the 2022, and it is 5.9%, I think, what Social Security Administration is doing. Sorry about that, I missed that.
Well, I couldn't reconcile.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a year back every time.
Question about the second page of our executive budget.
Yeah.
Is the first line in the projected income, $6,918,000, correct? Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, that would be, that's accurate.
Okay, so the projected income is anticipated to go up 5%.
Correct, yeah.
So in theory, it should cover increases in payroll of 5%.
Right, yeah, in theory. I mean, at least some of that will, because we'll have obviously services and supplies will go up. It'll be an interesting budget year, because I think when we look at, a lot of our vendors will probably attempt to raise prices on us more than they historically have. Yeah, if they didn't. Yeah, and then I think when we do the capital budget, I think that's where we have some ability to, I don't know, reclaim some of the budget, so to speak. Because when we do that capital plan, just like we do every year, and Wendy, you haven't been here for, but we look at all those capital projects and we're like, can we afford to do this? Can we wait? Can we do this differently? And so then, because we see how much money we have available to us, and so.
So George's, since inflation is anticipated to be more than 5%. One of the main increases that similar.
Other comments? We're aiming for a motion, right?
Yeah.
All right, who would like to make it?
I'll make the motion. I move that we adjust the staff payroll increases for the merit increase for the 2022 year to 5%.
I'll second that. Discussion? Okay, let's have a roll call for that, please.
Arnold. Hamilton. Cozzini.
Aye.
Sutton. Farkapisi absent. Lindsay absent. Beckley.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay. Ordinance.
Yeah, so the first ordinance, and I, as I said in the memo, I'm a little bit mad at myself for this error, although according to Roger, it's my attorney, this is not a big deal. When we established the bond fund to pay for our debt last year, for whatever reason, for the sake of transparency, I thought we should list the bond fund in the budget and appropriation ordinance. And when I shifted that out, the appropriation ended up under that bond fund. Really, it should be under corporate, and that's what this ordinance reflects, is just moving that appropriation to the appropriate spot. And what Roger suggests the best practice here to show that transparency is to put a note in the ordinance at the end. So next year, what I'll do is I'll put a note indicating that there's a bond fund that we transfer money from corporate into the bond fund to pay for debt. Questions about that? No, it's,
Okay, who would like to make this motion?
I move that we adopt ordinance 2021-2022-5, an ordinance correcting Scrivener's error in budget and appropriation ordinance.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
How, maybe I should have asked
Yeah.
earlier, how will we make sure we do it?
I've already gone into it and made the change, yeah, because we work ahead with the, yeah.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
Arnold. Farkapisi absent. Cozzini.
Aye.
Hamilton. Lindsay absent. Sutton. Beckley.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay. Year-end bonus for staff. I move that the board celebrate WNPL's
Oh,
wonderful.
Joe, point of order. We need to do the annual levy ordinance.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
B.
skipped it. Okay. That is, you want to explain that?
Yeah, so this is the last, if you look at this as a entire, if you take the calendar year from when the board talks about the budget, adopts a budget, and then the board goes through the tentative B&A ordinance, the final B&A ordinance, which is basically saying this is our budget, we're appropriating this much, so we can spend up to this much in these categories. Well, this is the tax levy ordinance, so this is an important ordinance, and this is where our income comes from, about 92% of our income. The final copy is in front of you. Although the way we do the levy ordinance, it will talk about the different, itemized funds under corporate, the different funds. Really, the important piece is the part on page 3, which shows you the summary of a levy by fund. And so what we are doing is with this levy of $667,360, is we are essentially levying, not quite up to, if we were to levy over 5% of last year's extension, we would have had to do the truth and taxation hearing. long story short, this is enough to capture I think it's 1.4% CPI and plus new growth in the district. So, probably in terms of our additional revenue from taxes next year, I think you get another 140,000 depending on new growth. So yeah, this is one of the most important ordinances the board passes. Any questions about this? And we'll start the process again with the budget process, really in January, talk about the budget cycle, and we'll just do this again. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is this year, for the first time, so Roger Ritzman, I think most of you know, if not, he was ill and unavailable. So I reached out to Jamie Rockland, who we worked with for refinancing our bond debt, to work with somebody to look at this. So Doug and I look at this, and it was really helpful to go through the process with Jamie, and I think I'll continue to do that to get his perspective. So, he pointed out some things that we had talked about doing. So for example, you'll notice on the page 3 of this levy, there's more levied in the corporate fund and less in some of the other funds, because some of those other funds are getting up to about a year's worth of expenditures. And if you were to go over a year's worth of expenditures, that's when taxpayers, rightfully so, can come to you and say, hey, you've got a lot of money in that account. Why are you levying that much? So it was helpful to work with Jamie.
He came to a couple of meetings, correct? Jamie did.
Yeah,
When
Jamie
we
came
were
to a couple
doing
of
it.
meetings.
Yeah, that's what I
Mhm.
thought.
Yep.
I remember.
Brian, the ordinance we just passed, is that third note on here, on page 3?
The third, the courtesy note to the county clerk?
Or, right, is that what we just approved?
No, not really. What this has to do with the abatement. So there's a special tax levy for debt service that will get abated because we pay for our debt out of the corporate fund. So that's basically telling the county clerk, you don't want to, because as you weren't on the board, but we mistakenly levied that one time, and we had to go back and fix it. So that's a note to the clerk to make sure we abate that.
Didn't we used to have to pass a separate ordinance abating that?
We will, yes.
Okay,
That will be in January, I believe.
just making sure we get it in before the deadline.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Someone want to make this motion?
I move that the board approve ordinance 2022-6, annual levy ordinance as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All right, let's have a roll call for that, too.
Sutton,
Aye.
Cozzini,
Aye.
Hamilton, Arnold,
Aye.
Lisdale, absent, Falcapisi, absent, Beckwith,
Aye.
ayes have it.
Okay, now it's year-end bonus for staff. Someone want to make this motion? I will. I move that the board celebrate WNPL's wonderful library staff for their service to our community, and that we acknowledge their excellent work with staff bonuses included in the current budget prior to December 31st, 2021.
I'll second.
Discussion? Let's have a roll call for that too, please.
Hamilton, Cozzini,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Falcapisi, absent, Lisdale, absent, Beckwith,
Aye.
ayes have it.
Okay.
Yeah, so the treasurer's report of annual receipts and disbursements is not yet available from Lauterbach and Amen, so I anticipate it we'll definitely have to be here by the next regular board meeting, because we've got to get it in by December 31st, so. Andrea's not here, and she has to sign anyway, so I guess it works out in the grand scheme of things, so.
Okay, items for next time? Anything? Okay, I move that the board enter into executive session 5 ILCS 120/2C1 to review the performance of the executive director. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. It is, anyone want to speak in public forum?
I'd just like to, thank you, the staff, for the decision you made earlier about the merit code. I've been doing evaluations now, and I look at all of the evaluations that the managers do and everybody else, and I'm continually astounded at not only what they've had to do to pivot, but how excited they are about and planning for next year, thinking that it's going to be better. And so I just wanted to thank you. That was very generous and very kind. Thank you.
All right. Any other announcements besides what's, oh, one thing is that the next committee of the whole is at 6 PM. We changed for the interviews, just so that was a misprint. So, any other announcements? All right, who would like to move to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. 8:25. Thank you.